In a world where prospects aren't willing to talk to you until they're 70% of the way through their buyer's journey, and where 70% of prospects are doing their research online before they're ever willing to have a conversation, what we're doing in B2B SaaS today is borderline insane. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the way that we're marketing and producing content that doesn't do a whole lot of selling on our behalf. We're producing banal, bland content that sits on a blog with a book a demo button on the top right-hand corner of the page. And that button's not getting clicked very often. Meanwhile, we're spending 70% of net ARR, net new ARR in a year. 70% of that is going to marketing that's not converting and that isn't producing the pipeline at the levels that it wants to. So what do we need to do? That's what we're going to talk about today. How can we improve our approach so that these results stop being so bad and we can grow our companies again at a predictable rate that increases the enterprise value and makes us as marketers look really good? Okay, so what are the best marketers in the world right now doing to get attention, drive pipeline, and make sure that that pipeline is as likely as possible to go and close as a sale? Well, here's what I'm seeing. In this market, the smartest marketers aren't just waiting for customers or prospects to get to that 70% mark of the buyer's journey. Instead, they're shortcutting the process by creating one-to-many selling opportunities. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Let me talk about a couple of things. We're going to talk about 3 big keys today. Number 1, creating content that people would be willing to pay for. Number 2, creating a forum to convert that attention and interest that they're generating into the next stage. And number 3, selling results and not products. Something that I've talked about before, and it's key to this conversation as well. So number 1, creating content that people would be willing to pay for. So these SaaS companies aren't usually charging for this product, but they could, because the content that they're making here is so good that people would pay for it. An example of this is Acquire.com. Acquire.com is a marketplace where you can sell a SaaS company or you can buy a SaaS company. And what I've seen on there, it's generally smaller SaaS companies. Like, there are no $100 million companies on there that I've seen. I don't think that's where that kind of sale would be transacted. But if you're trying to sell a SaaS company that's doing $500,000 in ARR or less, or even $1 million in ARR, and you've got profits in a certain range, you could go and sell that on this platform, and you can go buy a company like that on this platform. And what they've put together is several courses on how to buy a SaaS company and what you want to look for, how to do your due diligence. It will take you from somebody who maybe you're an investor and you have money, but you're going to put it in stocks, you're going to put it in real estate because you didn't think that you were capable of selling or buying a SaaS company. But once you watch this course, now you know. Now you've become somebody who's capable. Now you've changed from somebody who wasn't really in the market. They came and they addressed your problem and they gave you this solution, this knowledge, and now you're in the market and you're a potential, customer of this platform. It's a genius approach. And I have seen people say that they would have paid for these courses because they were so good. This is not a blog post. This is not a listicle, the 7 things you have to do to buy a SaaS company. It's a course, and it has, I looked at it one time. I can't remember how many modules it had, but it was a meaty course. They put a lot of work into this. This is something that they could have sold for money, and the people that have taken it have said they would have gladly paid for it. It was so good. But it didn't cost any money because they make their money by bringing people into their platform and having them transact deals by buying and selling SaaS companies. Okay. Now, it doesn't hold back value, this course. They're not waiting to give you value later. This is not a tease. Okay. In this case, we're going to talk about, this in a minute. It's usually more what than how in a lot of this content. But in this case, they're giving you a full course. They're opening up the vault and giving you everything that you need to know to buy a SaaS company on their platform. And what they're doing is they're giving you this amazing knowledge. And then they're like, by the way, here's the easiest place to buy a SaaS company. It's right here on acquire.com. Okay. The course isn't about acquire.com. It's not a product focused course. It's a results focused course. Here's how you buy a SaaS company. By the way, then they add at the end, by the way, here's a platform where you can do this really easily, where you can see hundreds of SaaS companies for sale and you can take your pick. Okay. That's so much different than what most SaaS companies do, which is put out this lame content that's produced by a content team whose job is not to convert. Their job is to create content. And then, and then it just sits there and some people read it and nobody clicks that book a demo button. And, but it's all product focused stuff anyway. It's like, here's why we're better than our competitors. Or, they're playing that game where they're like, here are all the reasons to use our competitors and here are the reasons to use us, which, it's kind of cool, but that's not this same kind of content. Okay. This is a big difference. And this content that I'm talking about now, that's going to drive more pipeline than anything else you're doing in the content game today. Okay. Now, again, it's usually more what than how. If you tell people all the how of how to do something, now this is different than the acquire.com example, because that's got a lot of how in it. But if you tell people, it depends what kind of result you're trying to create for your customers. But if you tell them how, usually what they're going to think is, wow, there's so much to do. I'm going to go do it on my own and I'll come back if I need help. And they'll get overwhelmed. It's hard to execute and they won't get it done. So the way that you can serve them the best is you can tell them what to do, but you can save the how to do it for a later time so that you get them, because the what is what will motivate them and get them into action. And then you save for a later time, well, let me tell you exactly how to do it now that you're in action. And I'm not going to talk about this a lot today. I've talked about this in the past, but one of the ways you can do this is with an info product. I have a customer I'm working with right now. They have a high growing SaaS company. Incredible free to paid conversions in this PLG motion that they're running. Multiple times the industry average, as much as maybe 10 times the industry average, depending on where you see that industry average. They're having incredible growth. And now we're going to add an info product that is going to not just give them this tool, but allow them to create a result, which is actually the next thing we're going to talk about, but to offer them a whole result. And in the content, though, that's bringing people into this conversation, they're not telling them all the hows. They're just telling them the what. Here's what you have to do. And then the info products later are going to give them all the hows. So then they'll buy the info products, buy the platform tool, and they'll have everything they need to get from point A to point B and achieve the result that they want to have. Okay, number 2, they create a forum to do one-to-many selling and to convert them to the next stage. Okay, one-to-many selling is the key here to create this opportunity for you to grow your business faster. Okay, because if a buyer isn't coming into your pipeline, or they're not even having a conversation with you until they're 70% of the way through the buying process, instead of banal marketing here in this phase, you need to sell in this phase and you need to get them momentum so they hit that 70% mark faster. And then they're more ready to have a conversation with your sales team, better qualified. They're already kind of primed to move forward. If you're not doing that, you're going to have people stuck in that 0 to 70% phase of the buying journey for way too long. And that's what you're seeing when you get a blog post with a book a demo button on it. So prospects see the value in this content that you're creating, but it's a lot, and even if all you're not doing how, but you're just doing what, it can be a lot because you should be putting all of your best knowledge into this content. Maybe you're holding that back because you want to deliver it later in professional services that you're going to charge for, or you're thinking that the sales team is going to do that with them. But they're never going to get to the sales team if you don't do this well right here in this 0 to 70% phase of the journey. And so you do one-to-many selling and you create a forum where you can convert people from one step to the next. Now, if you have a long sales motion, you're probably not going to do this at each step. The step for you that you need to convert at is probably attention into having a conversation with a salesperson. And you can convert that step much faster and at a much higher rate if you've done this play correctly, if you've created this content that people would pay for, and then you create this forum to convert them into that next step, the sale. Now, if you're doing PLG, your next step might be to convert them from a free user to a paid user. In either case, you've provided a path to a solution, shown them that there is a path, given them the knowledge of how to do it, and now you're going to convert them into the next step. This is where, this forum is where you really start to do your one-to-many selling. It can be a webinar, a community, a coaching group, a challenge, but whatever it is, it's not focused on your product. This is not a webinar about how to use your product. It's not a webinar about, where you think the market is going with, you and another thought leader who's, just going to prognosticate on this stuff. This is a selling webinar, a selling challenge. It's focused on a result that your prospect wants, and you are going to use this forum to tell them even more than you have before how to get there. And again, you're doing what, not how in this forum. But then the next step that you're going to convert them to is all about how. We're going to give you the specific results, the specific details, the knowledge. We're going to hold your hand through this process. That's what the next step is all about. And that's how you convert them into that step. And then finally, to be doing this, you're going to sell results and not your product. So just like this forum where you convert them into the next step, it's not about your product. You're not selling your product really in any of this content and in any of this process. You're selling a result. That will give your customers an emotional tie to what you're doing that you'll never get if you're just trying to get them to use your product. So you sell that result and you're going to get their buy-in, and they're going to be pushing along with you. You're going to be equally yoked in this journey of, moving them from where they are to becoming a customer. And when you do this, you can offer your customers a new identity. You can't do this with your product unless you're doing something really awesome, and your product will increase their status significantly just by using it. Probably not the case. If that were you, you probably wouldn't be watching this webinar or this podcast, because you wouldn't need to. But because you're not Salesforce or you're not ChatGPT in late 2022, we need to understand that it's a result that will allow us to give our customers a new identity as somebody who gets this rare result. That will increase their confidence. It'll increase their career prospects. It'll serve them in a real way. And by doing that, you're going to get greater buy-in from them, greater attention, and greater energy in moving through the sales process. Okay. The gist is that companies that are still trying to book pipeline through banal content, bland content, lots of volume of content, SEO-focused content with a book a demo button in the top right corner, it's not that great. And there's the reason why you're struggling with pipeline in 2024. It's just not going to work anymore. You can still do that stuff too. It's not that you have to stop doing that, but you need to create a program that is doing exactly this, creating one-to-many selling marketing that does selling in a one-to-many format, that brings people in through content that they would be willing to pay for, that creates a forum for you to convert people to the next step and sells a result and not your product. And if you're doing those things, you're going to see improvements in the marketing that you're doing, just like the examples that I'm pulling from here. So I hope this has been valuable. Give this some thought. Leave a comment if you have any thoughts on this. You agree, you disagree? I'd love to hear all of it. And if you want to talk about it in more detail, you can connect with me on LinkedIn and just say in your connection request, hey, I want to talk about this. And I'd be more than happy to have that conversation with you and share some of my thinking and hear what your thinking is. So I hope this has been valuable. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time on the Growth and Influence podcast.